Joining me right now, we have Illinois Congressman Mike Quigley, a Democratic member of the House Appropriations Committee and very proudly a good friend to this show. Nice to see you, Congressman. Let's talk about Alaskan Senator Lisa Murkowski, who told NBC News that she was briefed and told the object is not a balloon. Do you have any sense of where it came from or what it is?
Sure. This was shot down Friday afternoon. I suspect most members of Congress were on their way home or home already. And I don't know that anyone in particular on committees has been briefed yet. And as the recovery operations are taking place, what I had read was it wasn't characterized as knowing whether it was a balloon. So it is quite possible at 40,000 feet, we spent a very expensive missile shooting down a weather balloon. But other than that, we just don't know. It didn't seem to have its own ability to maneuver, and that limits it to very few objects.
Yeah, shooting it down for reasons that they believed could have interfered with U.S. commercial airspace, and I'm sure military airspace, if that were the case. Let me get to the debris that has been recovered from the Chinese spy balloon. As you know, it's said to have multiple antennas to include an array likely capable of collecting and geolocating communications. Interpret that. I mean, what does that tell you about what China was trying to do?
Look, China is surveilling hard. There's a satellite overhead every hour and a half, probably at this point in time. The balloon has greater capabilities, or has in the past, greater ability to collect signals intelligence, probably greater ability to take more high-resolute photographs and greater dimensions. But again, because this was so obvious, the Department of Defense and others were able to mitigate pretty strongly against this. What I take from this overall is this can be a net gain. This can be a win. Depending on the quality of what we collect, we can learn about the balloon's enhanced capabilities, if they are, and how to protect against them. In the final analysis, let's remember, this doesn't make sense. Both presidents just met. And Secretary Blinken was about to meet with his counterpart. These are nations trying to normalize relations. And most intel attempts at least some effort at covert collection. This is the functional equivalent of a brass band going down Main Street. So I think there are a lot of questions to be answered about that as to what happened within China and the decision-making process.
We heard Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene telling The Hill that she chewed out administration officials during a classified briefing on the balloon, saying, quote, "I tore him to pieces." I mean, one can only imagine the tone of what that sounded like. I'm going to offer maybe nails on a chalkboard. That said, the reaction to that has been what? Are her sentiments generally shared by Republicans? And what about Democrats?
In fairness, I was told by my Republican colleagues that before the State of the Union, Speaker McCarthy told them to respect the president during the State of the Union. And again, it was a very few that chose not to do that. I think it's a little different when you're in a classified briefing. You're trying to learn something that protects our country. I was on the Intelligence Committee for 8 years. I thought that this briefing was excellent. I thought the briefers did a very good job helping us understand just what took place with the information they had. So it's not particularly effective. And unfortunately, it's Ms. Greene there at the State of the Union. It's all about me. I'll put the spotlight on myself. And it reminds me of what John Adams said in all bluntness. He said, "I fear that in every elected office, members will obtain an influence by noise, not sense, by meanness, not greatness, by ignorance, not learning, not greatness, not large souls. There must be decency and respect."
I had a question to follow that up, but I think John Adams said that very well. So we'll move on to this, sir, that being the FBI agents who have now searched former Vice President Mike Pence's home. They did find one more classified document. And of course, it comes after former President Trump and President Biden also faced their investigations of handling of classified materials. As this all unfolds, you and your Republican colleague, Darren LaHood, are exploring legislation to implement stronger enforcement of the mishandling of classified documents. I believe you're pushing for a civil I guess, sense of rules as opposed to criminal? Talk about that. How would this work?
Let me say this. Mr. LaHood is an excellent choice as a partner in this. As a serious member of the Intelligence Committee, it's important because obviously this appears to be a bipartisan problem, and it needs a bipartisan solution with the serious qualities of the Intelligence Committee. So I think he's a good choice. Everybody who gets this material is trained in how to protect it and how to avoid its disclosure. There's no excuse. Unfortunately, there appears to be a pretty high bar to reach a criminal level of intent and obstruction. But we still have to increase the incentives, apparently, not to let this happen. So our intention is to have, if it's not a criminal intent, that there's still possibilities of very high fines and the possibility of losing your intelligence clearance. So we've got to do something else. There's too much at stake, not just our country's safety, but the people who are involved with that, both who work with us and work for us.
Okay. Congressman Mike Quigley, always good to see you. Have a good Saturday. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.